Welcome back to the Snap Count, episode 12 on Big Play Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. I'm Trai, Essex, and this is your quarterback in mind, Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic, man. I'm double happy today, man. We had our Steelers with the victory.
I wonder why, Trey.
Y'all this purple? See, I didn't wear the victory Monday because it had to go in the washer. I wore it so many times the last few weeks that it got it needed to be washed. So I transitioned to purple this week to represent my Northwestern Wildcats. We went into Happy Valley and made it Sad Valley, CB, because a lot of people left that game, and we found out later on had to leave the building altogether. Mr. Coach James Franklin got his walking papers, man, due to this loss against Northwestern. Are we that bad? Do people frown upon us that much that people lose their job when they lose to the Wildcats?
Hey, people are just mad at seeing the elevation of your program versus the direction of where Penn State was going at this particular point.
Yeah,
so
one going up, one going down,
Absolutely. So when you see that, obviously, I was surprised. I was shocked because I didn't realize that they were actually going to do that based off the enormous amount of buyout money that it took. But either way, they made a decision, and man,
you can fire me for $49 million. Hey, all day.
He's gonna collect the check until 2031.
Ooh-wee. That's that Bobby Bonilla money. That money you ain't got to do nothing and just chill with the money. But yeah, my Wildcats went into Happy Valley with the victory. I'm pretty happy. Coach Dave Braun, who I've been able to meet and talk to and have a relationship with, is leading these boys in the right direction. So I had to shout out my Wildcats before we get over to the Steel City headlines. We got so much to talk about this game versus the Browns, and let's get into it. These Steel City headlines are brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the fair way. All right, CB. Steelers 23, Browns 9. Man, that was a lovely game to watch, man. That looked like old school Steelers ball, man. We were running the ball. We were stopping the run. A-Rod picking his places where he wanted to make some beautiful passes to DK down the sideline. It was just a total team effort. Special teams contributed. We saw some stuff in the return game that we hadn't seen up into the season. But, yeah, it looked good as a whole. What was your perspective overall?
Yeah, I have to apply to Arthur Smith because sometimes, when you're facing a defense like the Browns did, they came in number 4 overall, number 1 in rushing. You have to be patient to get that running game going. And, they were able to kind of continue to stick with it. But again, converting on third downs allowed them those opportunities to stick with that running game. And once they brought that big package in, Darnell Washington, Anderson, those guys, they started to move. And every running back essentially at least had one carry for 10 yards because that package was doing exactly what it was developed to do.
It was a beautiful thing seeing all 3 running backs. We were worried about when Caleb was going to get his chance to redeem himself after that mishap with the kickoff return. Jaylen Warren getting back in after injury. Obviously, and Gainwell wanted to build upon the performance that he had versus Minnesota and Ireland a couple of weeks ago. I thought all in all, they all added something in the run game. It was a beautiful thing to watch because those 10-yard runs, I think we had 4 total, maybe 5. They were all right up the gut, right in the teeth of that number 1 rushing defense of the Browns. Mason Graham, Myles Garrett. I'm not going to lie, CB, going into this game with all the craziness that's been happening in the NFL last week, and then I was wondering if Thursday's game with the Giants being a lower team, starting 2 rookies, just like Cleveland did, going against the number 1 team in the division for the reigning Super Bowl champions in the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Giants straight up dominated them. So I'm wondering, was that an omen? And it was not. Our team stepped up in a big way. O-line came through in a huge way. We'll get to that in a second in the trench report, but it was really refreshing to see those boys get after, especially Mason. Whenever Mason McCormick is on the ground, signaling first down and doing his dance move, you know it's a good day. And so we saw that, but I thought A-Rod did a great job of just commanding the huddle. He brings this level of calmness whenever he's out there, and I think it resonates throughout the whole offense.
It does, and I think, when you mentioned talking about, what you expected from this game, I really thought and felt that the Browns were going to get tired. Man, that was a brutal travel schedule. And I get it. We're not going to use it as an excuse, but if it was flipped, I promise you, Steelers Nation would be sitting here saying, hey, we were dealt a bad hand by the travel schedule. But either way, they had to do it. And now, we'll have this short week. But ultimately, there's going to be 11 straight weeks. If you don't get the bye week, and that because there's only one team that can get the bye, they're going to play 11 straight weeks, and potentially 14 straight weeks before they actually get a bye if they can make it to the Super Bowl. It'll be coming that off week there. So it's going to be challenging, and it's going to be important for these guys to really do everything they can to recover, taking care of their bodies to make sure that they're available, because this is going to be a heck of a stretch that these guys go on. But it starts this week by taking care of business against the Bengals.
Yeah, short week versus another divisional opponent in the Bengals. Yeah, it's tough. And to really reiterate your point about the Browns and their tough schedule, coming straight from London and having to play against a division opponent on the road where they haven't won in like 11 or 12 games. I think that was the stat. It was tough on them, but no excuses. Play like a champion. Rule number 6 in the Wedding Crashers. No excuses. Play like a champion. And that's what the Steelers did. I don't want to hear nothing from the Browns. We happen to work with a few Browns fans that might have a thing or two to say. They can't really say much. Now, can you, Ryan? Can you, Nick? Can you, Dave? But it's victory Monday for us Steelers over here, and we're going to absorb it. We're going to take it. We're going to cherish it. And also, I want to bring up this defense, man. We've been harping on the potential of this defense. Mention it again, Coach Tomlin, we're like, this is going to be a historic defense or potential to be a historic defense. Didn't start out that way. Now, granted, we're going against two rookies in Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Gabriel. And so we knew it would be a struggle for them to get the ball moving. The offense already hasn't been good, but it was a good game for our defense to get on track and start dominating in ways that they wanted to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And they had to make Cleveland one-dimensional, because if you want to put the rookie starting his second game, first one on the road, you want to take away that running game and force him in those third and long situations. And that's exactly what the Steelers did. And they felt that they really could take advantage of it because he's only 5'11", making sure, okay, they thought that potentially with the batted footballs that they may be able to have opportunities there. But generally, when you're working with a shorter quarterback, you're starting to bring those blitzes up the middle to get his eyes to come down, hopefully look at that pass rush, and then ultimately be late down the field. And you can see pass and coverage were working hand in hand, because specifically on Jalen Ramsey's sack, they brought that, and Ramsey comes right off the right side because they knew he was going to roll out to the left. So they had a really good game plan that way. And the thing that shocked me was the fact that he threw the ball 52 times.
Wow.
On the road. Like, whoa, like that is something that really you shouldn't do. And they can't keep that formula for success up if they expect to get any victories moving forward in this season.
That was odd from Stefanski. He's been known to do some odd game plans going into games, especially against the Steelers. It was odd that Gabriel had to throw 20 or 52 times because the game wasn't out of hand until the fourth quarter. And Quinshon Judkins had been their workhorse the last two games and has showed up in a big way. But for whatever reason, he only got the ball 12 times. Now, our defense stepped up and stopped him every time that he got it. And so they had to adjust and try to find something that was successful. But 52 passes was not the recipe. But I do have an issue with the health of our secondary. It seems like everybody in our secondary has gotten hurt or dinged up at one point or another. And that was no different this past Sunday. I think Slay came out the game. I think he's okay, though. I think who else got hurt? Echols got hurt this game. JPJ got hurt a couple of times. He was able to finish. But are you as concerned about the health of this secondary as I am?
Yeah, they're getting banged up for sure. And you really want to have to apply. You have to apply Jalen Ramsey for really getting himself back and ready for this game, because I didn't think he was going to play at all. And if it was going to be very minimal snaps that he was going to play. So applied him and applied that medical staff for the Steelers for doing their job and getting him ready. But to your point, I mean, there was another one that actually missed some time, a couple snaps in there. That was Peppers. He went out with some time as well. So when you look at that secondary, that's been an issue because they have not been playing with all the pieces that they were hoping to have right now. Hopefully on a short week, these guys can recover and it's not too serious, because obviously, when you're playing on a short week, all the nicks and bruises are going to happen. We don't even need the injury report. They were about 72 hours away from being ready to play another game. These guys got to get it together. But if that is the case, then you might start seeing some packages that we haven't seen, even though we saw the big nickel in the Minnesota game, lack of communication where they gave up that big play. You just hope that defensive coordinator Terrell Austin does not have to keep figuring out which groups that he's going to play on a rotational basis, because you just don't know who you have available.
Speaking of Jalen, he did say after the game, he was going to tell his kids, because he was able to get 2 sacks in the game that featured TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. I thought that was pretty cool, pretty funny on his part. But dude, that dude can do everything, man. And for him to be as good of a blitzer as he is and affect the passing game by sacking the quarterback and then being able to go back and then drop deep in the secondary and back down passes, I mean, that just goes to show you his versatility and why Coach Tomlin made a point to bring him in. And it's been talked about how bad of teammates Jalen Ramsey was in his previous spot, how bad of a teammate Aaron Rodgers was at his previous stops. And for whatever reason, I mean, not for whatever reason, when they get to Steeler Nation, now they're the best leaders ever. I don't think these guys were ever as bad as what the media made them out to be. But then again, I'm glad that people are really starting to see their true colors and their true personalities and what kind of leaders they are, because you can tell the team is feeding off both of them.
Yeah, and this is something that, it happens a lot in the NFL. When you have personnel, people in high positions, and they're evaluating personnel groups, and they make a move, and then they have to justify their move, and then they start leaking out this information to the reporters saying, "Oh, he was a bad teammate. He was this. He was that." And again, do you believe it? Do you not? And I'm a person who ultimately is going to judge it and build relationships myself. And I only can speak on it because when I was leaving Detroit, the front office up there was saying, "Oh, he's not one of the best teammates." I'm like, where did that come from? Like, that's a blatant lie. And then here I am 24 years later, still around the Steelers organization. So, that's why, you can't take that, but so far, but again, I want to build relationship with people. Jalen Ramsey, he's exceeded it. Everything that they thought he was going to be when they made this trade, 7-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro. This guy's playing every position. And Mike Tomlin, he spoke about it after the game, and he was saying, "Guys, listen, I don't even want to speak about this anymore. I told you who Jalen was." And they saw that day one that he showed up in training camp. They love exactly where he is, and he's really on pace for another All-Pro season. And then Aaron Rodgers on the other side, you see what's happening. You look with the Jets, and you're like, was he really that bad? Here they are, they're 0-for, and here he is on the other side, 4-1. So again, man, he has been he's been exactly what they were hoping for Aaron when he came in here, and when he's taking time to build relationships with people, and players understand that, and they value it. And it's not lip service when the Steelers organization says, "Man, we love where Aaron is at and everything that he brings to the table," because he's really far exceeded their expectations, because he has went over and beyond. And it's just great because everybody is following this guy.
And I don't think I think A-Rod hears everything. He doesn't respond to everything. I think he hears everything as it pertains to himself and his teammates. I think today they're feeling good, especially Connor Hayward, number 83, who was getting all kinds of flack in social media because they didn't understand why he made the team as a 4th tight end. Was he really that valuable? Is he really that good? A lot of it was collateral damage from the way things went down with Cam Hayward, but it was awesome to see A-Rod get a touchdown pass to Connor Hayward. And it was an off-script type of play where Connor had to read Aaron's eyes as he was directing traffic down there, trying to extend the play, threw it across his body, which he's been doing all his life, accurate, and Connor was able to pull it in. I thought that was extra sweet. I know they loved to be able to celebrate that with Connor.
And this is something that Aaron's been working on throughout training camp, because again, in the old system, there wasn't a lot of quarterback scrambling and working with scramble drills with their receivers, and those type of things didn't necessarily happen. And Aaron is spending time day after day. And he said, "Guys, when we get into this scramble drill, we have to make sure that you're working with me." And sure enough, he was able to point Connor Hayward in the direction that he needed to go to make sure that they were able to complete that pass. Great job off script, to your point.
Yeah, it was amazing. Something I wanted to see this week with Alex Highsmith coming back from injury and with Nick Herbig playing as well as he did in Minnesota, how are they going to be able to deploy all 3 of those guys? And I thought,
yeah, they do. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I
was going to say they have a package in there that they want to continue to use, and I was looking to see that as well. So I apologize for cutting you out there.
No, you were just trying it's hype to talk about it as I was. I mean, Highsmith and Herbig on the same page. I thought it was pretty cool that Herbig he got a sack on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That's not easy to do. Usually guys specialize on one side, different footwork, different first step. And he's showing that he's athletic enough to switch up his stance and still get off fast enough to get pressure and sack the quarterback.
And it was funny because as you're watching the game, Nick had 2 sacks, Highsmith and TJ had a half a sack apiece. And it was funny because Jack Sawyer's on the field. He's trying to work his way in the game. Like, coach, hold on, man. I want to eat too. I want to get out there and get after this quarterback, especially when you knew they had to pass the ball. So it was just funny watching those outside linebackers on a rotation, trying to, let outside linebacker coach Denzel Martin, like trying to say, hey, coach, I need to go in the game. Like, put me in the game. And he's trying to make everybody happy while they're trying to go out there and get those sacks because it was just funny watching it.
It was, man. And I guess Big Derek Harmon got in on the action too, his first sack of his young career. So all in all, that D-line did great. We saw Yaya Black getting pressure at Cam being his normal disruptive self. This was the first game this year where I can comfortably say I felt that we dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage. One of the things that we've been harping on for the defensive line is stopping the run. They did that. One thing we've been harping on with the offensive line, getting push and running the ball. They did that, and they did that versus the number 1 rush defense in the NFL. So it looks like things are coming together at the right time. Obviously, coming off a bye week, I think that helped them get back on page or improve upon the performance they did in Minnesota. But the trenches is where it's going to be won, and we had another clean sheet for Aaron Rodgers. He did not get sacked. Got hit a couple of times, but this is one of those games where actually that means the O-line really did good. And we have a picture of how perfect that pocket was on that touchdown pass to DK. Look at that, Charlie. You could do some amazing things from a pocket like that, can't you, CB?
Absolutely. Those guys, that is as clean as a pocket as you can get. When you look back, there's nobody within 3 yards of you, man. That is a beautiful thing. Big props to that offensive line and getting that going. And the one thing I do want to mention before we talk about this offensive line, and I know you got a great report for them, Derek Harmon. This guy has been the glue of this defensive front. And by him doing what he was doing, allowed Cam Hayward to get there, Benton to get there, and it freed up. They took on those double teams, and it freed up Patrick Queen to run sideline to sideline. Watching him flow, and that's exactly why that's what we expected when we signed him last year. And now all of those things are starting to come to fruition. So it's really good, like you mentioned, defensive line, offensive line, dominating the line of scrimmage and really minimizing the Browns' pass rush, something that they were having a lot of success with as the season went on. But it seemed like obviously they were irrelevant throughout. But again, quarterback hits happen, blitzes were happening. He had to get rid of the ball because they were one short, and those were the 3 quarterback hits that they were accounted for.
Right. Well, yeah, they came away with the victory, all due to those things happening. And they got a short week this week, though. We got a Thursday game versus another divisional opponent, and we'll get into that on the other side of this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
Coach Tomlin had a presser today. This is a short week. Obviously, he wanted to talk about the Bengals, and he had an interesting comment about the GM from the team we just played on Sunday. Here it is right here.
Honestly, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
Wow. You hardly ever hear a head coach call out another GM from an opposing team. And I mean, when this first happened, I didn't think about that. But now that Coach Tomlin mentioned it, it does seem kind of a little shady and that the Browns would do something like this. We can't put it past the Browns to do something like this, but it seems like it might have been intentionally to harm us. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks like that's the direction. When they traded Flacco, I'm thinking, okay, there's a fire sale going on in Cleveland. They're just trying to get rid of everybody, play their young guys, and then stock up on draft picks for next year. But to that point, it's like, hey, maybe you're thinking if we don't beat them, let's see, maybe Cincinnati will be the next or the closest that will have the opportunity to knock off the Steelers. So again, it was a head scratcher to me when I saw it happen, and I'm 100% with Coach Tomlin to say these are things that you just don't see, especially this early in the season.
Yeah. like you mentioned, opening day starter. You thought enough of him to make him your opening day starter, despite the fact that you traded for a quarterback and Kenny Pickett and you drafted 2 more. But you made Joe Flacco your starter. And then 4 games in, you trade him to a divisional rival opponent this early in the season. Does seem kind of messed up. But nevertheless, it is what it is. We got Joe Flacco and the Bengals. We go to Cincinnati, where they got that nasty chili that they call with that skyline chili, whatever that mess, the chili on top of spaghetti noodles. This is one of many things messed up with Cincinnati. But we
And that
also
would be
go,
they would try to throw that in there for our pregame meal. You're like, man, get that out of here.
yeah, get that mess out of here, that boo-boo. That's what I'm gonna call it. But no, like going to Cincinnati, we got to deal with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and we got to deal with Joe Flacco, who still has a cannon for an arm. And if we're going to be honest, we give up a lot of yards in the pass because we like to keep the pass underneath, the completions underneath, so we can rally and make tackles, which I thought they did a great job of on Sunday. Keep the ball in front of you, make tackles, don't give up anything deep. And Joe Flacco has historically been a great deep ball thrower, and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are some of the best in the business at going to get them.
And this is why, to me, why they made the trade for Jalen Ramsey. It's kind of solidified it right there to say we have 3 true corners that can come in and go head to head playing one-on-one against their receivers, because they, obviously they have the best group in the league, arguably, there, and they're in your division. So you got to be able to stand up, and this is going to be a big test. Ultimately, we just hope that all of our corners are healthy enough to get out there. JPJ looked like he finished the game, so it looks like he'll be okay. Mm-hmm. Darius Slay, we'll see what that shoulder looks like as he misses time, but he was able to get back into the game and finish it. So it's just hard because on this short week, these are where the bumps and bruises are all starting to happen. And then this is the little carrot that you dangle out there, Trey, right? Hey, I know you're sore. I know you're tired, but if you win the game, I'll give you the weekend off.
Right. A little mini break, so you can enjoy yourself for a few days. And players do like that. That is the only perk that you get from Thursday night games. Wasn't a huge fan of them, but it's just it's the way of life now. It's been like that for years now, so there's no use in complaining about it. But it is imperative that our secondary is at least somewhat healthy going against that double-headed monster and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we also lost Miles Killebrew to an injury that looks rather serious. Before I get away, how big of an impact is that going to have on our special teams? He's been our special teams ace the last 3 years.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin always referred to him as the best in the world at what he does. And that is a huge loss. And you can see everybody corralling around him as that injury happened, because they know, number one, how great of a person he is, how valuable he is to the special teams. So this is going to be something that's probably going to take a couple people to try to fill that position, because that's how good he really was. And they started out, I think Kenneth Gainwell actually was the protector once Killebrew went out. So it's going to be interesting to see if they keep him or they move somebody else in there. But either way, I think Gainesville did an okay job as a replacement.
Yeah, hopefully the secondary gets aided by a ferocious pass rush once again, because Cincinnati Bengals have a horrible offensive line, CB. I've had the chance to watch them a couple of times, and there's a reason why Joe Flacco is a quarterback there, because Joe Burrow has been beat up. I think he's been beat up to the point where you got to think of him like Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck had to lead the game. He was hurting so bad because the offensive line never got rectified during his tenure in Indianapolis. And it seems to be happening with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati as well. Like, they pay the wide receivers, they pay Trey Hendrickson, but they don't really invest in their O-line. It started to backfire on them.
And that's going to be your challenge when you start paying and put all your money into the skill positions and not take care of the trenches. That's going to be something that is starting to show the flaws that are happening in that particular manner. And in the same way on defensive side, and not a lot of money on the defense, and now they're getting gashed on that side of the ball as well. So if you're going to make an investment into your skill group, you better hope the ball comes out quick and those guys save you.
Well, one team that did invest in the trenches is our Pittsburgh Steelers, and we are going to dig into the trenches. I think we're finally starting to see the fruits of our labor at that position. We'll be back with the Trench Report after this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
You know, these PFF grades, Charlie, that have been coming out, people, I don't know if people really like them. I'm gonna be honest. All I've heard is just how they favor certain people and how they don't favor others. After the game, the PFF folks had the offensive line grading out horribly. They had Broderick Jones grading out at like a 39.1%, which was absolutely ridiculous. But lo and behold, we got the trench report to really tell you how it is up front, coming from an O lineman himself. And this is the guidelines. It's pretty simple. I don't do all these analytics. I don't have a robot analyzing everything like PFF probably does. I don't know their process, but this is Trey's process. A plus for every good play, a minus for not getting the job done, double plus for a big play block, a double minus if you did not do your block or a mental assignment that results in a bad play. And then I'll tally them up at the end and give you a percentage. It's pretty simple, Charlie, how I do things. And I think it's pretty fair. And we're going to start out first with Spencer Anderson. We love this big man package. I love when he comes in the game, number 74, because it means we are going to do something physical. We are going to either do a hard play action pass or we're going to run it right down your throat. Now, Spencer had a couple of bad plays in there. I think he gave up a hit on Aaron Rodgers and he had a penalty. So not as clean as he had last week, but still, I think he only played 14 to 15 snaps, 83%. I think it's still pretty good because I think that means he only had one or two errors or two or three errors mixed in there. But the addition of Spencer Anderson for the second week in a row in this package, we are starting to develop identity, and he's a big part of that. Him and obviously Darnell Washington having a big game that he had. Spencer Anderson played great, but he can clean up a little bit more. Good to have him in there to play that extra O lineman. And then at right tackle, this is when it starts getting really good. Troy Fontanu had struggled early on, had a little lull in there week 2 and week 3, and he has picked it up ever since that, his worst game of his career. Week 4 had his best game ever as a Steeler, and he carried upon that performance with a good performance against a pretty good pass rusher in Alex Wright, who is the Robin to Myles Garrett's Batman. He's being a lot of pressure this year, and Troy was able to neutralize him for the most part, and he was super physical in the run game, so good to see that. I mentioned this, right guard, Mason McCormick, he is my spirit animal right now, Charlie. He is who I love to see. He is kind of the guy I gauge on how active and how much fun this O-line is having. And once again, he's at the bottom of the pile after a 10-yard run where we have 4 of them, signaling first down, getting hype, getting after. I saw him finishing plays downfield, 6 or 7 yards downfield. I love what he brings to the table. He is becoming a leader, I think, in that group, a vocal one, and definitely he's doing it by performance. So good to see him carry on with the good performances in back-to-back weeks. Zach Frazier, Mr. Consistency. Have we even thought about snaps at all this year, CB? Has that even been a thing? Because it was a thing last year, right?
Right. Early on it was, but it's no longer an issue right now.
It's not an issue. And that has to be a very comforting thing for A-Rod, not to be able to worry if the snap is going to be haphazard and he has to bend down or go over his head for a snap. It's been super consistent. We've been doing under center and gun, where you see a lot of teams who are like 80% one way or the other. We got a good mixture of under center and gun. We haven't had any snap issues. And he's leading everybody and been everybody in the right spot. He is pointing out which Mike back are we working to. He seems to be understanding safety rotation a little bit more because he's being very vocal out there. So that's good to see. Left guard, Isaac, who I was really hard on, had his best game this week, a 96%. And I think because of that, it was a big reason why Broderick also had his best game. But concentrating on Isaac, super physical this week, got after it in the run game, hardly gave up any pressure at all in the pass game. And I thought he did a fantastic job of working with Broderick, because you could tell the game plan, and it's no secret, Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the world, and you have to game plan accordingly. And so we ran a lot of slide protection his way. Isaac was always in the hip pocket of Broderick in case he did an inside move, and that was very helpful in neutralizing what Garrett did in that game. And the man of the hour, Broderick Jones. Now, that grade, that red, means that it's below what I would consider the threshold for a good game, but that's a misnomer. 84%, that's the best 84% I've ever seen, okay? He had a couple of Broderick Jones type plays where mentally, I guess he might have lapsed a little bit. He let a backer come through on one of the plays. He had another mental error on another play, but he was physical. And I was worried. I'm not going to lie. I was sincerely worried about him going against Myles Garrett, knowing what type of player Garrett is, knowing the success he's had against Pittsburgh in the past. And there were opportunities out there for Myles Garrett to go one-on-one against Broderick, and Broderick held up. I put a clip out there of a perfect pass set that he had. Dude, Charlie, he set back perfect angle and everything. Hands inside, extending the hands, and then was able to brace for the bull rush. It was lovely. I was like, you can do this. That's what we want to see. You're a first-round draft pick, and you showed exactly why on that rep. You have it in you. Get a little stronger, and you're going to be fine. And I thought Broderick did a great job of bouncing back and stepping up to the challenge that Myles Garrett presents. And by and large, his O-line did great. Big reason why we won this game, obviously, is because these guys were physical. Aaron Rodgers said it at the end of the game. He thought we dominated up front, and that went towards the victory that we had on Sunday.
And everything that you mentioned in there, and that's where when you're just watching the game and you're feeling pretty good afterward. Mm-hmm. And I just love the fact that every one of those offensive linemen, they're starting to, all the antics are coming in when they make a first down, and specifically rushing the football. So it was really good to see. But man, I'm loving where you're at with everything. And I'm starting to see right now, hopefully this is that transition from right tackle to left tackle for Broderick Jones, that the light has finally come on. And now you're starting to see the technique on a consistent basis, and hopefully he continues to build upon that grade.
Right. If it works against Myles Garrett, it's going to work against every other defensive end in the league, believe me. And but by and large, the whole O-line balled out. Especially you could tell at the end of the game, they were starting to impose their will on that D-line. Like I said, number one rushing defensive line in all of football, rushing defense anyway. And then number 4 against the pass, because they get after it. O-line held up. They did their job, and it was very refreshing to see. And now they got to build upon it on a short week. I think this game is tailor-made for them to do the exact same thing they did, because you do not want to have Joe Flacco and that offense on the field. You try to keep them off the field as much as possible. And by doing that, by running the ball, being physical, that's how you do it.
Yeah, and this was the first game that they truly dominated time of possession from start to finish. They were just under 32 minutes, and that lets you know they were taking advantage of every snap that they had.
Right. All right. We'll be back with Around the League after this. Man, another interesting week in football this past Sunday and last Thursday. And actually, I want to talk about the Thursday night game, Eagles and Giants. I told you there's a lot of parallels between that game and ours, in that they were starting a rookie quarterback, the Giants, and a rookie running back, going against a team that defending Super Bowl champions, but hadn't looked particularly good up to this point. Honestly, they were 4-1, and that offense was very much being criticized because of the lack of consistency and the lack of identity. Same thing with us, right? The Steelers didn't have identity, or lacked an identity, but were able to pick it up this past weekend. But on Thursday night, the Giants found their identity and was able to bully the defending Super Bowl champions. I was very impressed with what Jackson Dart, who I thought, honestly, in the draft, I don't know if the Steelers were interested, but I wanted him. I saw what he did at Ole Miss down there with Kiffin, and I thought he would be a perfect type of quarterback for the Steelers. Obviously, they went a different way. I love with Derek Harmon. We picked Derek Harmon instead. It's been working for us, and Jackson Dart is obviously working for the New York Giants. And then Cam Scatterbull, who just brings that dog mentality to the running back. And I love the way he runs the ball. And to see those guys at the end of the game and just how they formed that relationship of being rookies and helping their team win against a team like the Eagles, I thought that was very impressive. But I was very surprised it was that dominating of a performance from the Giants.
Of course, Brian Daboll, he playing for his job. That's why you put the rookie in there to say, hey, if he gets better, then that's going to save me and hopefully give me the opportunity in 2026 based off the improvement that he makes throughout the course of the season. Love his energy. He's playing with a ton of confidence, Dart is, and they're going to continue to build off of that as they move forward. And what better way to do it on a Thursday night? You get a chance to enjoy yourself over the weekend by knocking off the eventual world champions. Now people want to see the follow-up.
Right.
You got excited about beating the champions, but now can you do it again against the next opponent?
So what have you done for me lately type of league? You know, they're going to forget about that one if they get blown out in the next one. But did you think there was anything to be made about that whole concussion incident? Jackson Dart going to the tent and Dayball essentially rushing the doctors to give him a answer on whether or not Jackson Dart can play. Is there something there?
Yeah, it definitely is, and the coach should be fine, and I'm 100% with that. And the reason being because this goes back, to 2010 collective bargaining agreements when we were talking and discussing these points, and it led to a rule change in 2011 because that's when we brought the independent physician to watch this. Now say, hey, what did you see? Because as players, we're not going to tell nobody we got a concussion.
Right.
That's when they say you're seeing stars, you got dinged a little bit, you'll shake it off, and then you're going back into the game. We had to have a process in place to actually help players protect themselves by having somebody independently actually make that decision. Now he's going through the review. Yeah, he could have easily came back in the game, but it looks like when the coach went into that blue tent that he was forcing the doctor's hands to say, yeah, I know what you may be thinking, but he's going back into that game. And that's why immediately afterward, the NFL Players Associations really conducted a joint investigation to make sure, number one, that nothing fraudulent happened. And then also that this is not an issue moving forward because nobody should be entering into that tent. You saw the statements that were brought out, and it shouldn't be a factor moving
Who went in
forward.
there, right? Like the other player went in there and tried to speed up the process or whatever. Is that
Right.
what?
You just can't,
Yeah.
you just can't do that. That's why the blue tent was brought in there. So you now have a little bit of privacy when you're in there having those discussions, but ultimately you have to let the doctors do their job. And, this is going to be, I fully expect a fine that's going to happen. And then there's going to be continued the procedures on what it looking like moving forward to make that this never happens again.
Moving over to another divisional opponent in the Ravens versus the Rams. That offense is struggling, CB. Lamar Jackson missing his second game in a row due to a hamstring. Obviously, the two-time MVP is an important part of that offense, and he's the engine that makes it run. But you would think with a guy like Derrick Henry with a highly paid offensive line that they could survive a couple of games and put up some points offensively, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. Cooper Rush, I didn't watch the game. I don't know if he got hurt or if he got pulled from performance, but I saw Tyler Huntley finish the game. And so they've been able to have success with backup quarterbacks before, not to the level of Lamar Jackson, obviously, but they are only able to put up 3 points, even with Derrick Henry rushing for 122 yards. They have issues on offense. They have issues on defense. Can the Ravens get it fixed before they play us? I hope they don't.
I hope they don't either. But but Lamar Jackson is that offense, and he's the one that helps get them to be continuously be at the top in rushing offense. So if he's not in there, Cooper Rush is not going to rush the football that way. They're now going to take Henry away and force him to beat you with his arm. Now, if Huntley is in the game, that's a different story. He can move a little bit better. So it's probably, they're on a bye week. They're going to come in, probably have a discussion. And it would not surprise me if Huntley comes out and he is the starter because of his mobility over Cooper Rush.
All right. It looks like Cool Joe got his first action with the Bengals. Did you hear that funky stat about him being one of two quarterbacks? Some guy from 1962, I can't even remember his name, but one of two quarterbacks to be able to have the opportunity to beat the same team twice with two different teams. Some old stat. So he had a chance because the only win the Browns had was against the Packers earlier this year. And they played the Packers this weekend. It didn't come to fruition. They lost 27-18. I don't know how you could expect them to do much better than what they did in that short notice. Both T. Higgins and Jamar Chase had pretty good games. I think Jamar Chase had like 9 catches for 130-something yards. So should we be concerned? Like, are you worried that Joe Flacco makes the Bengals that much more competitive?
Yeah, the one thing you can't take away from is Flacco can still throw that ball down the field. And he was pushing the ball down the field. That's exactly why they brought him in, to try to open up that offense. The thing that concerns me now as they're moving into this short week, it gives him 4 extra days to understand the offense. You're not going to have much practice time because you need to recover. So it's going to be more from a neck up to perspective if you're doing more of a walkthrough in anticipation to prepare. So at this point, you'd be like, you're almost in a situation where, like, what do we have to lose? Are they going to start pushing and throwing the ball down the field more on those deep balls? Because that is the strength of Flacco's. And we've seen it over the years with that moon ball type of throw that he has. You just hope that doesn't happen this week on Thursday.
Right. and one more game I want to get to before we get over to our FanDuel bets. The Colts versus the Cardinals. Once again, the Colts were able to pull out a game. Jonathan Taylor looked amazing. Daniel Jones is still looking good. It doesn't look flukish now at this point. Are the Colts for real?
Right now they are, because they're winning games that they're supposed to. Nobody, and I mean nobody, had the Colts sitting here and at the top of the division is early on in the season, and they are surprising a lot of people. And we talked about it last week. Daniel Jones, sometimes a change of scenery is all you need.
That's
You
all
want
you
somebody
need.
to believe in you, and that's exactly what's happening up there in Indy. And this is great to watch him go out there and do his thing and having fun. So hopefully it slows down here in a couple of weeks as we see them. I think it's right around November 3rd or whatever that first Sunday in November is. The Colts will be coming to Pittsburgh, and this is the beauty of the schedule. Everybody else, and regardless of who you play, the Steelers have an opportunity with the teams that are on top of the AFC at this particular point. They are on your schedule, and you're going to have an opportunity to compare yourself to figure out whether if you're for real or a pretender.
Yeah, that's Super Bowl XL reunion weekend when we play the Colts, that first weekend in November. So we'll all be there to see how we perform against those guys. Actually, one more game I want to get to, I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, we talked about Daniel Jones and his redemption arc right here in Indianapolis. The guy that's having the best redemption arc in the entire NFL, and really is giving a big FU to everybody, specifically the Browns maybe, is Baker Mayfield down in Tampa. What he's doing and what Coach Bowles is doing down there has been so close to amazing. Being able to transition from a Hall of Famer like Tom Brady and being able to put a product that they've been able to do the last 2 years, making it to the playoffs, and now they look like arguably the best team in the NFC. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And anytime that you have a 1-year prove it deal, you go out there and do it, he earn another 3-year contract extension. This guy's playing lights out. And unfortunately for him, it's almost like a bargain for QBs because he signed a team friendly deal and he should be making more. And obviously for him to continue to play the way that he is, he's definitely going to get a contract extension there. It just, again, he's another product of change of scenery. And the thing that surprised me about him leaving Cleveland is the fact that Jim Haslam, Cleveland's owner, he was a minority owner of the Steelers. He saw how they operate. So you would think that he would operate in more of a patient mode and not be so knee-jerk reaction and listening to fans and all of that. But ultimately, that didn't carry over from Pittsburgh to Cleveland. They got rid of him, and now he is doing his thing down in Cleveland. And they are a serious Super Bowl contender right now when they are the way that they are playing. And if they keep that up, man, people are going to sit back and I think right now Baker actually is have some MVP votes.
That was about to be my next question. Dare I say MVP? I mean, if I had to put 1, 2, 3 on who would be in contention for the MVP right now, it probably would be Baker. It probably would be Goff, even though he had a letdown yesterday. And then that third one, it might be Jonathan Taylor for the Colts. Is what kind of year he's having with them and how he's able to help Dan Jones. But, we might want to bet on that. We can go over to FanDuel and play some bets. But we have that and many more after this commercial break with our FanDuel Big Play Bets. This week's Big Play Bets are brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss this NFL season. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across all the app. You can build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season is here. The only question is, are you ready to play? Visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Disclaimer, must be 21 plus and present in Pennsylvania. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Restrictions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, CB. The Steelers open as 5.5-point favorites against Cincinnati in Cincinnati. It's a battle of old quarterbacks. Joe Flacco versus Aaron Rodgers. Short week for both of us, obviously. Are you taking the over-under at 41.5? Which one are you taking? Of the over-under at 41.5? And do the Steelers cover the 5.5-point favorite?
I'm going under on the over/under there. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, and I do think the Steelers win, but they do not cover.
Okay, so you think it's closer than 5.5 points. Okay. Now, the Lions screwed you over for this last bet. They did not cover for last week's bets, though. I think you got this one. Also, pick 2 touchdown scores. I'm gonna pick my 2. Let's see what kind of odds we can get on that.
I will go Jalen Warren. I think he's going to get into the end zone here today or this week on Thursday. And if I had to guess, I probably think that Jamar Chase is going to get in at some point.
Yeah, I'm going with Mount Washington. We got him involved in the pass game last week. Finally, I think Aaron is getting a little bit more comfortable throwing in the ball. I think Mount Washington finally gets into the end zone this week, and I'll go with you too, Jalen Warren. I think those 2 are pretty good bets.
We've been waiting for Darnell Washington. This is 5 straight weeks. We've been crossing our fingers, hoping he gets into it. Hopefully, this is this week.
Yeah,
his week this week.
His odds are always amazing every week, so he's got to come through at least once. But we'll be back after this break. All right, CB, another episode in the books, but the people are asking for more. They want more Charlie Batch. I'm just a consolatory prize. You are the main attraction, my man. They want to come see you. And because of that, we're going to do a 30-minute episode on Friday, every Friday. And then actually it works out great this week because we play the Bengals on Thursday. So there will be more of the snap count for you guys to take in, more of that beautiful face of Charlie Batch. And we'll be Fridays at 1 o'clock. On Twitter, same places you find us already, YouTube, subscribe Big Play Pittsburgh on YouTube, and then also find us on Big Play Pittsburgh on Instagram and Snap Count Show on X. Right? I'll see you on Friday, CB.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. That's because they want to see more of you, Mr. Essex. Keep doing your thing.
Appreciate that, brother. I'll see you in a few days.